You know where your family is from in Italy, but you've never gone. What is it like visiting an ancestral town in Italy for the first time? Here is my experience and 3 reasons why you should visit your ancestral town. Number 1, understanding your roots. Number 2, respecting the sacrifices of your ancestors. And number 3, supporting the town. So to start with number 1, understanding your roots, your heritage, your background. This may come off as the easy or the obvious one, because by going back to this town, you might be able to find some historical connections with your family or learn more about the town that your family or part of your family came from that you didn't know before. The town that I visited was called Santa Caterina Villarmosa in the province of Caltanissetta, smack dab in the center of Sicily. This was the first ancestral town of the many that I have throughout Italy that I visited. So it was a really cool and unique experience to go somewhere just off the basis of having ancestry there and not just visiting it because it's a tourist destination or because you know somebody there, but just out of the pure fact that I have family that came from there. Even though I don't know anybody there, there's nobody left there from any of my immediate or near family because it's more of a distant ancestral town for me or a distant heritage for me from that particular area. But going to these type of places helps you understand just sometimes really simple or basic things. Like for example, I really noticed in this town how everyone had a pretty solid sized nose. And for me, I mean, I've always known, I've always had a pretty large nose. And this definitely to me was one of those places where I'm like, that particular line of genetics could have come from here specifically. I know that's a super silly one and super funny, but I think little things like that are really cool to see. Also just understanding your family history. So I think before going to an ancestral town, a lot of people, including myself, will have already done research or will do even more research to have a little bit of an understanding, like knowing the professions of your ancestors that came from this town, what maybe you know the specific area that they lived in or the house, whether it was maybe grandparents, great-grandparents, whatever, etc. I didn't have so many details because this was a little more distant ancestry and let's say probably one of the areas that I'm least connected with of my Italian heritage. However, I just happened to be in Sicily, so it made sense for me to do this. And just looking around, right, and having this understanding of where your family came from is powerful. It's very powerful because a lot of times, especially for us in the Italian diaspora, where we grew up looks so significantly different than what people grew up in a few generations ago, no matter where you are, but especially when you moved countries. Because some of these places in Italy, for example, this town that I went to, it probably hasn't changed that much in the last 100 years. 100 years ago, it probably looked pretty similar. So to have moved from that to something completely different, like an American city or an Australian city or Brazilian city or French city, is a huge difference. So I think going to these places and just understanding where your family came from and just stepping foot there, seeing the town, trying the food, meeting the people, walking around, even just imagining what it was like then, because obviously it was a little bit different, even though a lot of these towns have not necessarily changed. And also understanding that a lot of us in the Italian diaspora, we have roots from small towns. A lot of times it's not coming from a big city, it's coming from a little town, commune in the hills or in the mountains, like in my ancestral town in this case, which was about 2,500 feet above sea level, half a mile basically, almost a kilometer above sea level. So this is a mountain town with nothing close to it, very isolated. And to just think about how your ancestors lived there and that they left. Which leads me to point number 2, which is respecting the sacrifices of your ancestors. I think this is super important. When I go to a town like this, which is one of those traditional Southern Italian towns in the modern day that's depopulating, the general population is pretty old, there's not a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of vacant properties or vacant houses. There's areas that are in a state of decay because no one lives in those areas anymore. There's just not enough money or people to go around to maintain everything. It's also very isolated. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's elevated. It's not easy to get to. There's, very few roads going in and out. So when you take all of that into account, I think you have just a deeper respect for the sacrifices that your ancestors made and the chance that they took, leaving this mountain town or leaving a small town somewhere, buying a ticket at a port and taking a boat to a completely new country that they knew nothing about, landing there, and a few generations later, I'm born and I come around and I've lived a great life overall because of the sacrifices that people like that made. So when you visit this town and you see, and I don't always mean in a negative way, because sometimes it's like, oh wow, my family came from this and now I'm here. Like we've come so far. I think that's part of it. It's not saying that that town was like a dump or something. That's not the case. It was still a functioning town with people that were working and going to school and doing all this stuff. Like this was not some extreme poverty or something that I saw. So I'm not gonna go to the extreme to say that, oh, they came from, this, went to this. But if you're talking 100+ years ago, that might have been extreme poverty, right? So to have that understanding and that respect for someone who maybe couldn't make it where they were at or thought that taking an opportunity somewhere else, trying their luck somewhere else would be a better option, and it worked out for them, is something I have a lot of respect for. And you don't really know the inside of these people's brains and their stories, of your ancestors always, and how they thought and how they approached things. But leaving your home is hard. For anyone who's done it, leaving home is hard, whether it's in your country, even harder going to another country, let alone in that time period where the world was so much less connected. So just respecting the sacrifices that they made for me to be able to sit here and to record content about the Italian diaspora. I think that's a huge part about visiting an ancestral town and why I highly recommend doing it, because it puts things in perspective of what your family came from and what they have taken the chance to do. And if life has been pretty good for you, what those achievements have led to in a great life, or at least a good life for you and your siblings or your parents even, or whatever, someone in the family tree that came from that ancestral line. And then the third reason why I think you should visit your ancestral towns is to support them. I think that a lot of people's ancestral towns, like I said before, are in the hills or the mountains of Italy. They're very isolated. A lot of them are depopulating or are already borderline ghost towns. There's a lot of vacant property. There's a lot of decay. So just visiting for a day, 2 days, 3 days, anything helps. I mean, staying somewhere, supporting a local hotel, a mom and pop restaurant, a mom and pop bakery, maybe buying a souvenir at an artisan shop, because a lot of these places aren't touristy. So supporting the local businesses, you're really supporting local artisans, you're supporting local bakers, you're supporting local farmers. And I think that's a beautiful part about going to places like this. Santa Caterina Villarmosa, me and my friends who visited here, we were the only outsiders in the town. I mean, you know that when you walk through the main piazza and everybody's eyes are on you. So I think going to these places, and almost it's a way of giving back in the future. Even though for a lot of our ancestors, they may look at it as the town gave them nothing and they had to leave. But we have a different perspective because we've been able to, I guess a lot of us reap the benefits of the sacrifices and the chances that our ancestors took to leave and try their luck and try and make a better life for themselves elsewhere. But going back and supporting these towns, I think, is necessary, because if people like us don't support these small towns, I don't really know what the future is for them. And there's obviously only so much you can do unless you want to truly go back and fully invest in the town, invest in a property and all of that, which is a personal decision. But I think at least going back and taking into account, number one, and number two, understanding your roots, respecting the sacrifices your ancestors made. And then what kind of goes along with that is just supporting the town monetarily, but also by showcasing it, what I can do or what others can do that have a presence on social media or that have a business, is they can showcase these towns as places that are authentic and are cool places to visit, so they can get more financial support, more visitors, more people coming through to help keep them alive and not turn into the next ghost town in the Italian countryside. So those are the main reasons why I think you should visit your ancestral town. And I had a wonderful time visiting my ancestral town for the first time, even though it was over 100 degrees in the middle of Sicilian summer. But I think that the perspective, the connection, and the understanding that I got from being there are priceless. And I would suggest, if you have the opportunity to do so as well. It will definitely help you connect more with your Italian heritage and have a little bit of a better understanding. Even if you're like me in my case, where I wasn't going to visit family, or I'd never been to the town before and it was kind of just passing through, I think it had a level of effect on me that was much deeper than I expected. So that being said, outside of visiting ancestral towns, there's many things that you can do to maintain your heritage and to pass it forth to the next generation. And one of them is from ORIUNDI, Italian Diaspora Words, Volume 1, which is 15 Italian American dialect words that you don't want to forget, that you may still use and you probably heard growing up. I'm talking, there's words in here like agita, which you probably heard your mom say all the time, or stunad, maybe another word you heard your mom say all the time. These are just a couple of the words within this book, and the link is below in the description if you're interested in getting one for yourself, ebook only. And if you like content like this, then ORIUNDI is for you. Stay tuned for my next videos and maybe my next travels and other feedback that I can have on what life is like being somebody young in the Italian diaspora. Ciao for now, e alla prossima.